Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I was going to say, buenas tardes. I'm Councilman Paul Lopez. I have the honor to represent the 3rd District and City and County of Denver, District 3. That's Denver's west side, right? And Arturo and I have the honor and the hard task of representing that northern part of my district. We share a district. We share not just a district in terms of geography, but we share the same bosses, and that's the constituents. That's number one, the students in that district, right? That's the parents in that district. That's the folks who probably don't have kids, but want to see a return on their investment, right? Because these are the kids we're sending out to become educated, and to become leaders in our community and the world. We want to be able to say that these kids come from our district with pride. And for the most part, we do. We have DPS graduates among us. I'm a proud West High School grad. Veronica, I think we are, and Debbie Ortega, right? I don't know, Judy, we're right here in front of your school saying that, so we got to get a getaway car pretty soon here. But the point is that we believe in our children, right? We don't want them to be afraid to ask questions in class. We want them to challenge. We want them to ask provoking questions. So why should we ask any different of our school board members? We want them to challenge the system. When something's not working, we want them to ask why. And we want them to keep asking why until we find the answers. And when, in the case of West High School, when West High was not doing well, when we let go of a great principal out of that school, when the middle school was also failing, Mr. Jimenez said, or I'm sorry, Director Jimenez said, why? And with the community coalition, people who are representing community organizations, former alumni, boosters, parents, grandparents, students at this table, and not only that they asked questions, but they made sure they did the research and they had the answers. And now instead of closed doors, right, and closed lights at West High School, it's still open. And not just the high school, but also the middle school. We got to remember that that middle school wasn't doing well. And the folks who were heading that middle school, they didn't want no part of that failure. They didn't want to be held accountable. Well, Director Jimenez did. And he says, we cannot make West High School fail. These kids deserve something better. They deserve top notch, right? And that's why we're here. Because in the community, those are our bosses. Those are who we answer to. And we deserve self-determination. We deserve to determine our own destiny in the community. Nobody else. And come November, that will happen. We come from a neighborhood, and we come from not just a neighborhood that's on one part of town, but that has a legacy of so many people before us that have fought for this neighborhood, that have fought for these opportunities. I tell you what, I read the demands that the Chicano students had in 1969, 8, during the walkout. I have that list. It sits in my office. And I tell you what, we still have a long way to go to meet those demands. And we can't do it without somebody like Arturo Jimenez, who is the vice president of the school board, who's not afraid to speak up or ask questions when they need to be asked. And we're not alone. From what I gather, the folks who are also behind you and with you in your task, Director Jimenez, of educating our children, making sure they have the best school possible. Our city auditor, Dennis Gallagher. Deborah Johnson, the clerk and recorder for the city. Our former mayor, you heard from him, Mayor Wellington Webb. Right, J.D. McFarland. Our Colorado former Attorney General, Fidel Butch Montoya, who happens to be a resident in Northwest Denver, but also former manager of safety, Mr. Mayor, and deputy mayor at the time. On the Denver City Council, you know, we're honored to be in Councilwoman Judy Montero's district, right? Councilwoman at large, Debbie Ortega, who's rejoined the council. I'm glad she has. Doug Linkhart, right? Our former council at large, and also Susan Shepard, the councilwoman on the other side of Federal Boulevard. From the state, we have Colorado State Senator Guzman. Thank you, Lucia Guzman. our Colorado State Senator Pat Stedman, Polly Baca, our former state senator, Paul Sandoval, a former state senator, Crisanto Duran, Colorado State Representative, Mark Ferrandino, Representative Dan Pavon, Representative Angela Williams, our former state representative Joel Judd. You all see him walking around all the time. Frana Mays, our former state rep. Angie Mapire from the RTD board. Juanita Chacon, who's a former RTD board member. And Fernie Baca, who's also an RTD former board member. From United Association of Realtors, including the Denver Board of Realtors, the DCTA, the Denver Classroom Teachers Association, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Denver Area Labor Federation, and the Carpenters Union, Local 55, which, from my understanding, was is family for you. Your father was a carpenter, right? And still is a carpenter. And the whole point of this is because we want to support Arturo Jimenez for the school board. We want to make sure that our constituents, the children, the #1 stakeholders in this whole campaign, their parents are well represented, and that their representative is not afraid to ask questions, just like their kids should not be afraid to ask those questions. Thank you.